Welcome to Honest Whispers Review. On this video, I'll be reviewing DC Multiverse Signature Collection Wonder Woman TV series Lynda Carter as Wonder Woman action figure. Released by Mattel back on November 8th, 2018. This figure is approximately 6 3/4 inches tall. And I'm going to go over 6 different categories to review this. First category is design, which basically covers the look, the concept, and the points of articulations. And this figure, as you can see, comes with a lot of accessories. It does come with the cape, extra hands, base, and of course little other accessories like a clear holder for the back, which is kind of like a brace for her flight poses. And she even comes with pegs, as you can see here, that goes under the base, which I do have one on there right now. And this little black piece right here, if I'm not using the flight holder or the clear flight brace, basically this is the cover for that display base. So everything's well thought out and designed, but somewhat a little bit sloppy. Just not sloppy, but not how you say, just completely well thought out. I don't really like it where you have a peg and they're kind of, I guess, predetermined in certain spots, and it's all like there's so many little holes that even if you're not using the peg, it just looks a little messy. So I think one like peg would have been more than sufficient, but she is quite posable. Now the cape itself is very flimsy. It is nylon and printed basically on one side, so when I have it draped like this, it works. But then if it's posed while she's holding it out like this, then as you can see, it just doesn't look as nice and clear. And also this thing doesn't tie in that well. And one thing I do want to show is that this type of fabric, since it's very thin, once you have a fold like this, it creates a crease and doesn't really, I guess you could kind of iron it with maybe like low heat and put something on top of it to protect it so that it won't melt on your iron. So maybe you might be able to take the crease out a little bit. Otherwise, it might be pretty much permanent. It really depends on how it's packed. This one looks like the cape might be okay, especially right here on the edge. But then when you look at this one, the cape is folded, so that one definitely you're gonna have a couple creases right there just on that side alone. So I mean, it's better than nothing, but I prefer without it, especially since the figure itself is pretty nice. Lots of articulations, at least points of articulations. There's 19. Neck, 2 shoulders, 2 elbows, 2 wrists that rotate on a pivot joint. You have a torso, waist, 2 hips, 2 thighs, 2 knees, which is actually double jointed because you have a joint where it connects to the thighs, and then you have a joint that connects to the calves, and you have 2 ankle joints. Now, although there's 19 joints, there are a couple joints like the shoulders and the ankles where you have basically, I guess it's double jointed. That could be one way of putting it, on like a double jointed hand or a finger on an actual person. This one, for instance, the shoulder, it has a hinge joint and a ball joint. I already mentioned the 2 hinges on the knee, but then as far as the ankle goes, it's on a hinge joint, as you can see here on the back, and on the bottom of the base it's attached to a pivot joint, so it rotates as well. So definitely a lot of movement, freedom of movement, lots of points of articulation, so you can do a lot of different types of poses. Although this pose, I try to copy one of Lynda Carter's famous poses, just didn't really work out that well. But the way she looks definitely does kind of resemble Lynda Carter. The costume design is pretty much dead on, looks just like or very close to the CBS version where it was modernized. And above all else, just the look itself, especially the points of articulations, most of them are pretty smooth, looks almost seamless, other than maybe the shoulders and the biceps, where it just, shoulders I don't mind too much because it, you know, you really can't escape it, and when you look at it from different angles, it's not that bad. But the bicep joint right here where it rotates, it's basically on a pivot joint, so just has too much of a gap. Doesn't really seem to connect like seamlessly, especially from the shoulder to the bicep. And lastly, the shape and everything itself, you can't really tell what is front or what is back. So not that it's much of an issue, but still I would have liked it a little better if it just kind of, the angles or just the edges didn't stick out so much. So everything other than that, really well done. I have to admit, this design, I thought I was gonna be a bit disappointed just from looking at the pictures, but after opening and kind of, or at least just trying to display it this way, I did realize this is a lot better than what I expected. Therefore, I give the design score a 9 out of 10. Next category is sculpting, and that basically covers the execution, the details, and the quality of the molding. So, for instance, they could have sculpted really nicely, but then the mold itself might have had some issues. I don't see too much molding issues or anything like that here, although I did have one on this particularly. What I'm trying to show you here is like a seam line where the two molds closes up, so you could see that little line kind of going down, but it's very subtle. You really have to look for it, and overall that it does look nice, but the quality control on this just really, it was very terrible, because one of the reasons why I have so many figures is that I was going from store to store, even at WonderCon, booth to booth, looking for one that didn't have much flaws, and believe it or not, at least half of the ones that I've seen had flaws. And one of the issues might be like a face that looks like it's been melted off. Tiara tends to be glued on or assembled offset, and you might see some molding issues like chip on the hair, earring missing, or just something, for instance, even on paint issues, which would be the next category, and you might have specks here and there. So definitely you have to be careful with the figure, especially the quality or condition of the figure, before you buy this one. So based on what I have here, though, the execution isn't too bad. I thought I ended up with the flawless one, but unfortunately, which I'll go ahead and show you here, is after I set this down so I can, is that right here. I guess I shouldn't have set it down. I should have just shown you it first. It's basically this. It's a piece of plastic I had to take off from the leg, and where it came from, which now I'll show you. I'm gonna have to do this like a hands-on thing. Is basically, this is supposed to be double jointed knee, so I'm supposed to be able to bend it like that. In other words, I mean, I could just use one, so that's like 90 degrees right there, or I could use this part, so that way I could, you know, hide the kneecap by putting it on the bottom. But on this leg, even though you're supposed to be able to do that, when I do that, it pops out. And the reason why it pops out, which is so stupid, it's like, apparently whoever was drilling this thing, if I could get a, I'll try to do a better close-up here. Up there, yeah, so that hole is on the wrong side. So that hole is supposed to be right here on the back side, so that the hinge of the joint can go inwards. But, and I thought maybe just the surface, you know, some of the plastic just kind of covered it. So I tried to see if I could poke it through, but nope, it's all solid plastic. So whoever made this put this on the wrong side, drilled the hole on the wrong side. So rather than being able to fold it like that, I mean, if I had the leg like this, then basically I could probably, there it is, I could do the, I mean, dude, it's like quality control, come on. China, since this was made in China, it's like you have to pay attention to what you're doing. So what I'm limited to, or I'm not able to do if I do that, I mean, like a kneeling position or a squatting position, kind of like when she was picking up those weights. I mean, I could have done something like that. I guess it would have looked a little awkward. So not like I would have really used it. If I were to have her kind of kneel, which that won't work. Since I can't really close her legs, it'll just look a little awkward. So it's, fortunately, what I'm trying to point out is that it's not a pose that I'm really gonna be missing too much. But it does take away one of my joints. So I guess I could do a one-legged high knee type of leap pose, maybe. Something like this. Which is, you know, a very popular Wonder Woman pose, I guess you could say, especially like in the Justice League animation. So that's where this comes in. which you plug in the back. And then you hold it there. Now, once you put these little pegs in, most likely you're not going to be able to take them off. That's what I hate. So, guess you could, again, that's one of the reasons why I gave the design flaw, design score a 9 rather than a perfect 10. Because they could have done this better. As far as the alignment goes, I know I had her like this before, and this does pop out nice and easy. So I guess if I had her, because I had her leg closed like this, so obviously she's not going to be in the center, but let me try to straighten the feet a bit. So when I pose her like this with her legs a little bit wider, it works. But problem is that right off the bat, her ankle joint is so loose that she really can't hold her own weight. So she has to be like perfectly centered. Otherwise, so one way I might be able to try to take this off is maybe with the wrench or something, and because I might have to just use this permanently just so that she doesn't look so awkward, and I'm not limited to just one pose. And even this looks just kind of silly looking, where she's just kind of dangling. And Wonder Woman, at least in the TV series, can't fly. So maybe I could do like a leaping, like before, like some kind of leaping. Or maybe even floating. Even though she can't fly in the TV show, she can fly in the comics. So let's see, what would be a good flight pose? I guess straightening her arms would be better. And then so that looks okay. Almost looks like she just crossed the finish line of a marathon. So execution overall, I mean, it could have been better, especially with quality check, quality control. As far as the overall sculpt goes, body proportions, everything looks great. Even most of the joints really look nice, and even her butt, it's like, I mean, she doesn't have like a really defining butt crack, but at the same time, it is pretty well shaped. So when you see it on like a reflection off the certain light, you could kind of see, I guess, some of the curves. So not like she had like a wedgie going in the TV show anyway. So it looks front, back, costume, the look, everything looks overall great. So that's why I give the sculpting score a decently high, just due to so many issues. I mean, that unable to do the leg, I mean, that's almost inexcusable. And like I said, there's so many issues with the ones that I chose not to buy, because it looked horrible. Like literally, the face looked like it was kind of melted. It looked so deformed and disfigured. I can't believe they actually packaged it and shipped it to consumers. That's why I give the sculpting score a just an above average 6 out of 10. Because keep in mind, this little piece came off of the leg, and I thought maybe this was why I wasn't able to bend the leg. But once I saw the opening wasn't even there, and on the other side, I mean, that's just stupid. Next category is colors. Colors overall looks great. It basically covers the accuracy of the colors, quality of the colors or the paint, and even the quality of the paint application. Paint application, again, with the sculpting QC, you're going to have a lot of issues with the paint. You're going to see a bunch of specks like dots or something here and there. I'll show you some examples since I have this here. Right here on her breast, you could see like a black speck or a dot. It's possible you could probably take that out. I might have seen here with a dimple here or there. Or it could be even this one. So it really depends. Sometimes the star, like there might be like issues there. You could see some bleeding on the borders. It's almost looking like double vision on a couple of the stars. Sometimes the gold is not fully painted, or you might get some bleeding on the belt. This one, similar with the stars. It's like that top middle one always tends to be like a double vision blurry one. Back overall looks great. This one does have this little, I don't know what that is. Almost looks like a dimple, like it's been scraped off. And her face is a bit too shiny. It looks like she was sweating a bit, or she has a sweaty face. Some of the plastic, now her skin or her body isn't colored. That's the actual plastic color. But unfortunately, like her bicep has a different tone than her shoulders. And also her kneecap tends to have a slightly different tone, a color tone. If I can get that focus there. Then the thighs. And finally, some bleeding on the white line of the shoes. And of course, this is something I forgot to mention on the sculpting category. And you can see how the boot, a little bit out of shape. It's not symmetrical. And I say that because the other boot is, and I'll give you a better example here. Like, they all have that on her left boot. Basically, just that top point just doesn't come out in that nice straight angle, while her right boot always does. This one, when they packed it, it's kind of turned. So, but you could see the same molding or sculpting issue. But as far as the paint goes, just usually I'll see paint issues here on this line, or sometimes right here the gold isn't as dark and might look a little faded. That would be one of them right there, but not as bad as others I've seen. Eyes are over symmetrical and everything. So, and even a lot of times you might see some bleeding here on the tiara. So it's a hit and miss. Let me see if I can find one here. I know I've seen one with some bleeding on the tiara. So just to be thorough here, and this is the one. Here's the culprit. If I could get a better focus. So you can see right there, you can see some gold bleeding onto her hair right there at the apex and right there on the side as well. So could have been a better job, but overall I do like the color look. It is accurate. I do like the glossy finish on her Star Spangled panties or shorts. So really like the shine on that, and it does kind of remind me a bit of the actual costume. Would have been nice to see that same kind of gloss on the red, but you know what, it still works without it, and therefore I give the color score a pretty high 7 out of 10. Next category is packaging. Packaging basically covers the design of the package, the look of the package, and this one I really like it a lot, especially because for a window box packaging, which is kind of like a hybrid blister card, just the way it has a tab. Nice big window here on the front that kind of curves to or folds to the side. Nice window on the top. Solid side here. Same picture, but again that was cut. Info regarding the character. A sample picture. And basically you have this cool little, it's kind of like folded out in the bottom, so rather than coming in flat, you can see how the little DC logo kind of sticks out right there. So nice design, and what I like about it, on top of everything, the way it looks, is that the overall format and colors, like the background and these little hexagonal design, is consistent with all the other figures or characters in the same line. So Batman and Flash will have a similar background, same size box and format, just only their pictures and their information is different. So therefore the packaging, you really can't get better than this, and overall it is pretty sturdy. So I give the packaging score a perfect 10 out of 10. Next category is value. Pretty much covers the retail price versus aftermarket price, and retail or aftermarket price versus the quality of the figure itself. And this one is supposed to retail at $29.99. It was briefly sold out, and then I've seen people on eBay buy it for like little over 30, like $35 to $40. And then I guess Mattel had more produced, and I got lucky and got this for sale, basically at $20. So really good price. If you could find that right now, I definitely recommend it. Otherwise, due to so many bad looking ones too, I think another reason why I got so many is I feel, just from my experience, this is definitely gonna have some aftermarket value once it's completely sold out and unavailable in stores. So I give the value score on this. I mean, it's still fairly new, so it is more of a prediction, but again, just from the way it looks and everything, and also already from a brief time, it was sold more than its actual original retail value. So I give the value score a high 8 out of 10. Finally, overall, which basically accumulates all the prior scores from design, sculpting, colors, packaging, and value. This one, I am overall happy with it. I am disappointed that one of the knees can't move, but at this point, doesn't really hinder any type of pose that I was trying, that I want to do or I'm trying to do. So, you know, it's not that bad. I mean, I was tempted to open another one and just sell like one of them as used. Otherwise, the look and everything, I really did like how well articulated she is. And just the overall look, the colors overall looks great. As I mentioned, especially the Star Spangled panties or the shorts. It really tends to reflect light, so to a point where it just really stands out and kind of brightens. You could see though on her chest, it's kind of how I mentioned the face though. It's a bit too shiny and glossy on certain body parts. So it looks like she was kind of sweaty. Yeah, I don't want to go over all the same points, but I do want to point out that even with the paint, it does tend to rub off on the plastic. And I had it worse before, so I even had to use a like a goof off or a paint remover. Basically just folded a paper towel into a square. I dabbed some of that onto that corner and basically just used only the corner to just kind of wipe it off, like, you know. So overall, it does have a lot of issues, and I do have to recommend, if you are getting this, definitely check what you're getting inside the box before. And therefore, I give the overall score an 8 out of 10. So I tried to do some different poses and ended up liking this one a lot right now. Rather than having the arms crossed, I do remember a Lynda Carter picture where she has her bracelets kind of in that L form. And also, I wanted to do kind of a natural floating or leaping forward type of pose. So definitely like this one. I was gonna do a bit more of that high knee one, which also works too. Something like this, maybe even and since this is soft plastic, I'm not too worried. So something a little bit higher, maybe. Although this this pose, the one high knee with the other leg straight back, is really overused. So I might go with what I had before, where it was just looked a little more subtle and looked like she was just kind of not so much floating, but it just looks more of a gentle type of jump or leap. So especially since she's dangling and I don't have to keep her feet flat on the ground, so definitely want to keep the legs kind of close. I want to have the toes pointing straight down on both so that she doesn't have that weird pigeon toe effect going on. And let me see if her back, because the more you move the front part, and it's not just this side, even right here, you can see a lot of the blue rubbing off, which I would have to get that goof off or paint remover again and dab it off. So I just want to go with something. Now, I remember there was a Wonder Woman picture where she's kind of doing a little leap like that. So I might go with something like this. And then plug her in the back. Get that. And unfortunately, I can't fold the elbows any further or more, so I can't really make a perfect 90 degrees at some angles just because the edge of the forearm tends to get in the way. So here it is, legs kind of split wide right there. Let me see if I can get that in straight. That looks a little bit better from the front angle. Get it lined up. So there you have it. To recap: design 9 out of 10, sculpting 6 out of 10, colors 7 out of 10, packaging 10 out of 10, value 8 out of 10, and overall 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time, continue reading the King James Version Bible and eat your vitamin C daily.